Here we delve into those topics that challenge us to think outside the limitations of realism, where we test the boundaries of imagination and are forced to think outside the confines and restrictions of what is normal. We are the creators, the writers, the artists, and the insane. Welcome to our weird realities.
Hello, all of you weird people, and Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a great holiday, and we're really glad that you could be with us tonight. We are going to be talking about seers and prophets and some of the predictions that they have made throughout history. There are a lot of people that have predicted things, from Nostradamus to Mother Shipton to prophets in the Bible. Caesar was warned in advance about beware the Ides of March, and that came true. So we're going to kind of dig into that and see what we can come up with tonight. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yes, coming through loud and clear.
Yes, I'm doing fine as well. Had a great Christmas and New Year.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Got to go to bed about 9 o'clock. So that was good.
Yeah. That's when I decided I was officially old, when I got invited to a New Year's party and said, I think I'm going to pass. That's when I decided I was officially old, when I got invited to
That's me, and I'm sorry.
Okay. I hear me.
Well, I was trying to log in on my phone so I could see who's talking to us.
Okay, gotcha.
So that is Laura Lehman Porter saying hi.
Hey, Laura.
And
Hi, Laura.
Lewis saying hello, y'all. And I see that Landa's watching. There's Landa. Hey, Landa.
Hey, Landa.
I wish somebody could have predicted that my mixing board was going to blow up.
We're in a Mercury retrograde. That techno is going to give you some issues.
And I'm going to tell you, it has been coming in strong this week. I mean, we have had problems with equipment at work all week long.
This retrograde started in 2022, and the shadow period seemed like it was a full force retrograde.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I am experiencing it. Like, I don't even want to tell y'all the stuff that's happened to me this week. Let's just say I'm getting it. So.
Say just about over it. Doesn't it go out like the 14th, I think?
The 19th or 18th, I think.
Come on, I wanted it to be the 14th.
Sorry.
Yeah. Rough. It has been rough. But that's okay. It could be worse. It could always be worse. So.
Well, I was telling my sometimes significant other that it's not something I want to happen. Because I think they were like, oh, you're all about the woo. And it's like, this ain't about the woo. I don't like the Mercury retrograde. It's, I've learned to respect it. Because I wasn't really into astrology. I mean, I knew my sign and, I knew my planets and stuff like that. But I didn't know how the retrogrades really affected us. And it has been, ever since I've been introduced to the concept of the Mercury retrograde, that it has been beat in my head. Oh my God, it's coming.
Oh yeah.
Lock down your cell phones and your computers because it's about to get real.
I have an entire department that they do data analytics. They are huge numbers people, and I had it to the point where when one of them had a problem, they'd come to my room and say, "Is Mercury in retrograde yet?" And so I gave them all a calendar, and the whole 9 yards. And even now, they swear by it because, like I said, it happens. It's crazy. See, it's those predictions.
Well, it's one of those things that anything that can and will go wrong will.
Oh yeah.
You can't tell, but I'm very, very mad right now.
Well, my stuff is coming back from some legal stuff I've been working on since like May was done wrong, and I found out today. And so all this, counting chickens that I know better than to do. I counted my chickens, and now just SOL.
Oh,
Praise
boy.
God. I hate to hear that.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
prophets and seers, huh?
Yep, prophets and seers. Who's your favorite, Cecil?
I don't know very many of them. I know, Nostradamus and the prophets in the Bible and things of that nature. And what's her name? Baba Vargas,
Right.
Vangus.
Yep.
There's a few of them that I know about, but it's one of those areas where I'm not really well versed in because I don't take much credence into a prophet or a seer.
Mhm.
I feel like anybody, if they sit around and say enough things, that eventually something that they're going to say will come true. But there is a possibility some people out there may be able to see into the future somewhat.
I'm
Yes.
going to have to disagree.
Go for
Okay. Oracle Delhi
Get him,
that
man. He's in a bad mood
they
anyway. Get
shape
him.
governments, they shape
it.
kingdoms,
Mhm.
and that was something that for centuries was turned to. And it wasn't just the Greeks or the Romans; it was a lot of different kingdoms and stuff over the millennia have totally turned to prophets and seers to help them shape the way they're going to
Mhm.
go forward in battle or negotiate. I mean, most recently, let's look at the Hitler and the Nazi Party. We know how into the occult they were,
Mhm.
and it was to the point where they were arresting psychics.
Right. Well, with this right here, I mean, every government throughout history, they just as you said, they've always had their diviners or sorcerers or seers or whatever. All of them,
Mhm.
all the way back.
Oh yeah, well, I remember when I was a teenager and Reagan was in office, and it came out that he was, regularly consulting a psychic.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
well,
And
yeah,
people
Nancy.
lost their minds.
Yeah, Nancy did for sure. I wasn't too sure about President Reagan, but I knew for sure that Nancy did. It's not surprising that he would as well.
Nancy wore the pants. Come on, Stephen.
I didn't argue that.
But I mean, it really does. I mean, I think we'd be surprised to know. I mean, in this this will start going into the CIA and their clandestine affairs. But when you start looking at the psychic research that our government has done, they spent billions of dollars
Yeah.
into psychic research. There's a reason.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not to disprove psychicism. It's to see how to use it.
Yeah, it was even. I know the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They even put that in the song. The psychic spies from China.
Well, they say that psychics were responsible for where they found Saddam Hussein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Did he was in that little hole? Well, y'all remember that?
Yeah, the men that stare at goats. That was based on that was may have been loosely based on the truth, but it was based on the truth.
Yeah, that program took place at Fort Bragg, and I was taken by the building where that was done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where the goats were kept, I guess.
That's the perfect example of one of those movies that you saw the entire best parts of that movie in the trailers. Yeah. Because the rest of it sucked. And I was looking forward to it because, I knew it was loosely based, on government stuff. And I was like, oh, that's going to be really good. But no, they didn't give us but just enough to try to make it funny. And they didn't even succeed at that. Mm-hmm. But they've had, prophets all throughout history. There was Mother Shipton over in England. She predicted the end times and the rule of multiple kings in England. Then, of course, Nostradamus, most of us know. Edgar Casey, in the early part of the 19th century. And then the Bible, there are tons of prophets in the Bible.
Oh, yeah. There's over 40.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And Cecil, I don't necessarily disagree with, a lot of them got lucky. Like the ones that are selling their services for 99 cents a minute on TV, I think are a hoax. But,
right.
I do believe that there are people out there that are blessed or cursed with glimpses of the future.
I would agree that there's some people that could probably see into the future and things of that nature. I always lean toward the fringe when it comes to that, but that seems like a skill that, I don't know, would that be something that you would be born with? Is that something that's given to you? or is it something that develops over time? Like, is it like a muscle you have to work out? That's what the government tried to do with it.
Right. Well, with the government, what those, I guess, I don't know if they'd be considered whistleblowers or what. With the government, they said that everybody's pretty much capable of doing what they showed in the movie, the Men Who Stare at Goats.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has that capability if they can learn to develop it.
Right. And there are so many limitations and everything that we are taught from a young age, that can't happen, that doesn't happen, that most people, kind of move away from those things after their children because, they've been told that that can't happen. So I think you have to have a certain mindset to be able to develop that kind of thing.
Right. To me, I honestly believe that in some families, I think somehow this kind of passes on from one generation to another, in the fact that some people were, I don't know if you want to call it a premonition or they get glimpses of the future or whatever, and they can actually see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in some families, it is probably somehow seems to pass on in that way.
Yeah. Well, I know, and like I said, this is just personal experience. I've over time had prophetic dreams, not with any regularity or anything, but like when my dad passed away, I knew for about 3 months it was coming because those particular types of dreams have a certain feel to them. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew it was coming soon. And it was about 3 months later that he was killed.
Yeah.
And everything. And my daughter does the same thing. Now she really does. She avoids it for everything it's worth. She does not like it, to know those things and everything. And I get it, especially when it's bad things,
Right. Yeah.
You can't dream of having the lottery, that'd be too easy.
No. Those kind of dreams are not comforting whenever you know that, when you know that there's going to be sadness coming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that was her thing. Because like I said, she actually had the same dream, about my dad. And then her grandmother, who had passed away about a year and a half earlier, she had dreamed that she was going to die and everything. So like I said, it's never anything good. It's always going to be something, traumatic or, like I said, I would love to be able to say, Cecil, you're going to win the lottery tonight and we're sharing.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so too. And if not you, then me. I mean.
Well, and that was something that I brought with me tonight was I had found in the last couple of days a couple of sets of notes that I took from that incredible psychic that I used to speak with a couple of times a year. Y'all heard me talk about Suzette Cooksey. And Suzette Cooksey is a psychic out of Tampa, Florida. She stopped working in 2020. I would love to say she's come back to work, but she hasn't. But her readings were so on the nose that I would say, and I'm a skeptic. So when I say this, please understand it comes from most people can't read for me. I've been reading and experiencing tarot and dream, and, prophetic dreams in my family and being around witchy people or psychics, my entire life. And when I say this, most psychics cannot get a read on me. And for whatever reason, this lady tuned into me, and I would say, sorry, it's sorry. He wants up. He's going to be the mascot now. He's taking Boo's place. But she was pretty much 85 to 90% accurate on everything she gave me. And I found some stuff tonight. And one of them I wanted to kind of touch base on was from 2018. And she identifies my current relationship.
Really?
Yes. Because she saw him in a that he works offshore. But he was not a platform worker. And my current guy, and she actually, I have a note in here, she says Exxon. And he did work for Exxon, but he's a scientist.
Really?
And she saw it, and she nailed it down, and she's like, you're going to meet someone, and it's just layered out. But there were plenty of times, and this is one of the things that I did want to talk about, is a lot of times it's not that the psychic is wrong, it's the person doing the interpretation is wrong. Because she has told me time and time again, there would be people coming in, and she would say, coming into your life. There was a guy coming into my life, and I could not miss him. Keep it down. As y'all can tell, he is a handful. So, anyways, this guy that she had told me about, this was years ago. Literally was in the middle of the road. Like, he was in the middle of the road. He was a police officer, and I knew him from a mutual friend. And this guy was directing traffic, and I could not have missed him if I tried, because he was right there. And he had been messaging me on Facebook and wanting to talk. And I was like, I ain't going to talk to this guy. And then I was like, oh, holy crap, there he is, right in the middle of the road. It never came to anything, but, he was there. But it was, I wasn't looking for anyone, and it just wasn't the time for me. But it was very interesting to see that the part that we play in the predictions, as well as what we think about them. Because, again, I didn't think she literally meant he would be in the middle of the road, but he was.
Yeah.
But she also could predict medical issues. She predicted medical issues for myself, my mother, and my father. She predicted and accurately predicted. Stuff I did not know. Because y'all know that I have like staghorn kidney stones. Mm-hmm. And she predicted that I was going to have an issue with kidney stones. Well, I had never had kidney stones. So it was, I just wasn't expecting that at all. But she was, like I said, very accurate. And it's, again, I think a lot of times people interpret things the way they want to, versus, because in 2018, when she told me about this guy, I didn't know anybody that was working offshore, know? And it wasn't until going over this guy that I'm seeing, going over his past, that I realized that he had done it. And it wasn't until I picked this back up and read it that I saw she was right. Mm-hmm. So, write that stuff down and start telling you stuff.
Yep. Well,
but I told y'all this before. She saw me working in radio. Mm-hmm. And I was like, or TV. She said, you're going to be doing radio or TV or something. And I was like, no, I would never do that. And here we are.
That's funny.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
well, and there are definitely people. Do you remember that girl back, good God, 20 plus years ago, that her big thing was, she could tell people about their past lives. And what she would do is go by cues, I had on moccasins, so of course, oh, you're from, the Old West.
You're a Native American princess. Yes. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was like that with everybody. Like I said, once we were talking after it was just, a handful of left, it's like, well, first off, I have absolutely no connection to that era at all. No feelings for it or whatever. Besides, I don't particularly care for that time period, but I was never a cowboy. So, but that's pretty much what she would do, is she would take cues, the things you were wearing, things that she overheard you say and stuff like that, and kind of build a life around it. Mm. Yeah. So,
and that's what you have to be careful of. But at the same time, I think that people who you have your con artists and people who can read tales, and then you get into, is that like a different type of being psychic? And that this is for me. I wonder these things, and because I had a friend one time who's like, he was very in tune to reading people, but he didn't consider it psychic. He considered it because he had a background in psychology. And to me, psychology and the woo is very closely connected. So, and I have found that a lot of people who are in mental health and they, I've got some friends with PhDs in psychology and some friends who are LPCs. They got their masters and they counsel people. And all of these people are very interested and in tune with the same stuff that we talk about,
Yeah,
which I find fascinating.
right. A lot of them are really sensitive too.
Hmm.
Maybe empathic.
Mhm.
Would that be correct?
Yeah. Well, they say that that profession has the highest suicide rate because so many times it's hard for them to separate what's theirs from the people they're counseling
Hmm.
and everything, which makes perfect sense.
Right.
I mean, because it's hard sometimes just carrying your stuff and then you're carrying around, dozens of other people. But
Like these predictions from, like, for instance, the cell phone was predicted in like 1909. Do you think that's just like when people predict technologies and things like this? Do you think that's based on like a foresight into what they see is going to happen, or do you think that's like something that's like similar to what we're talking about, where they can see events happening?
With Alexander Graham Bell, unless I'm horribly mistaken here, I believe that whenever he invented the telephone, had the first conversation, I believe he said that this was not the first time that had taken place.
Oh
As
yeah,
if he had somehow he had access to some other knowledge that we don't.
well,
yeah, something from Tartaria or something.
Right.
that's even if you look at some of the drawings, mechanical drawings and stuff from Leonardo da Vinci.
Mhm.
I mean, wheels and planes and stuff like that, that he had to have gotten something from somewhere.
Right.
You need a point of reference, I think,
Mhm.
to be able
Well,
to come up with certain things.
Yeah.
I recently had run across it was a diagram talking about the different levels of consciousness. And one of those levels of consciousness was artistic consciousness,
Mm.
which existed past like deep meditation and deep sleep. But we've talked about this, and this brings me back to that thing that we've talked about before, which is I think that artists and creators go to a certain place and that we pull from that well. And to me, this feeds into that is that place that this consciousness comes from. But
Mhm.
I wish I had kept a screenshot of that
Yeah.
thing. I haven't been able to find it again.
All right. Yeah. I can't necessarily say that for artists. But I know with athletes, and this may be off topic here, but with athletes, whenever they get into a zone, all the noise and all the outside distractions and everything else, they can't hear it when they're in that moment. And I'm just wondering if that's kind of what you're talking about there.
It could be. Um,
When they get in the zone, so to
Right,
say.
right. It's that shared creative consciousness,
Yes.
where you can reach in and find things that you can't just in your normal waking moments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm going to send this to y'all real quick. This is what I did find, and it's not the right one, but I think that y'all will appreciate this. So hold on, I'm going to send it to you.
I'm sorry, I'm not talking much. I can't control my voice because I can't hear myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I feel like I might be yelling.
No, you're fine.
This mixer breaking has destroyed my whole night.
That's okay. If you get too loud, we'll tell you to pipe down. You're our friend. Well, even it's a tongue-in-cheek type thing, but it's still, when you look back at it, they talk about all the things that they have predicted on The Simpsons over the years.
Yes.
And it's scary how much that they've actually talked about on there that ended up like Donald Trump being president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a Simpson episode.
It makes one think that Project Looking Glass could really be true.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The Simpson thing is strange because I mean, they've predicted quite a few things. They've predicted Trump being president. They've kind of predicted 9/11. They've done quite a few different things. There's actually rumors of a lost episode, which might be like a creepypasta, but apparently there's a lost episode where it was one of the Halloween specials, and you know how they used to go across the graveyard or whatever. They went across the graveyard and it had a bunch of celebrities' names on it, and it had their birthday and their death day on it, and a lot of them hadn't died yet.
Oh, wow.
We should. I think that the Simpsons topic is one we should like do a whole episode on.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there about it. So it's not just Trump. It's not just one or two things. They have predicted accurately a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that could be one of two things. With the elite, it seems as though they want to tell what they're going to do before they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether it would come out, it might be part of a movie, that might reveal something in the future, or perhaps like with The Simpsons in different ways. It seems as though there's some kind of rule that they're abiding by.
Right. Well, it's like the whole thing with, when they finally admitted that aliens were real. I think a lot of times they say these really insignificant things because everybody knows aliens are real. Whether you believe they're here among us or just they crashed, whatever. But, come on. We are not so special that we're the only beings in the universe. But they save up, to me, what are small, insignificant things like that to cover up more important things that are going on or happening at the time. Mm-hmm. So, it comes off sounding like, oh, well, what this over here is not all that important. Oh, my God, aliens are real. We knew the government was covering it up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I used to, from time to time years ago, I used to listen to a guy named Lindsey Williams. I think he was from Georgia. And he was friends with some elites. Mm-hmm. And he occasionally would do talks and talk about the things that they had predicted that they were going to make happen in the future. So, yeah, because they have their plans laid out for a long time, according to what he was saying.
Right. No, and like I said, there's so much that we probably know, but we'll never have validation,
right.
And everything because, like I said, there's just too much. Like I said, there's got to be a point of reference somewhere. As much as I believe in imagination, I feel like there is only so far that imagination will go before you have to have something else contribute to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, imagination alone is not going to have all this stuff happen. I mean, there has to be something working behind the scenes,
right,
to bring it about.
Yes, because I can tell you, I'm still disappointed that the Jetsons happened in our time period and we don't have flying cars.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not responsible enough to fly a car.
I could do it.
Well, I think I could do it.
Me and Cecil, we got this.
Well, there's a theory about that too, that the Jetsons and the Flintstones take place at the exact same time. Or that even the Flintstones may be future too. Is one theory.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and that could be the case. I mean, look at it now. Look at all the technology that exists today, and you still have some indigenous groups living on islands or deep in the forest. Mm-hmm. They have none of that. They're still living in the Stone Age right this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They absolutely, because I was researching that tribe over in the Pacific that nobody's allowed on the island and everything because they've been totally separated. And a few years ago, I think a televangelist, a missionary, decided he was going to go and bring them God. And they killed him as soon as he got out of this canoe and everything. But, he had people from another island, take him out there against the law, because they have very strict rules about contact and everything. And like I said, the family, I think, originally wanted to see about charging the natives for the death, and the Indian government's like, no, no, we're not doing that. So
yeah, it was on that island not far from Thailand. Was it 2012 when the tsunami hit?
Yes.
And they were concerned about it because I guess the government or whoever knew about the people who lived on the island, and they flew I think it was a helicopter over it, and they had spears thrown at them and arrows shot at them. Everybody on the island survived it. They were not
That's how
wiped
the
out.
aliens feel about us.
Right.
Every time we fly by, they just try to shoot us down.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, they roll up their windows and speed up when they go by.
There's sometimes we challenge them to come on back and confront me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But like I said, you look at things like I said, the Planet of the Apes, which is exactly that scenario. But who's to say that, again, there wasn't some basis there, the time machine. There have been multiple creative works that dealt with that exact thing, that we devolved back into Neanderthals and, things like that.
Hey,
So,
Mark.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Happy New Year.
But, so, which of course that's completely backwards from talking about predicting the future. But, Nostradamus was probably one of the first conspiracies, as it were, that I researched when I was a teenager, because he was well enough known that even my small town library had a book or two about him and everything. And then I remember when the internet came alive and didn't cost you, $1 a minute, and you could actually find things back then that you can't find now. There was a lot of information on him out there, a lot. Him predicting things like the rise of Hitler and the 3 antichrists and the whole 9 yards. I'm still waiting to see what happens with that third one. There's been a time or two I thought we were already there, but I don't think we have been.
I don't think we have been either. The first Antichrist was Napoleon, and then the second one was Hitler.
Yeah.
The third one, who did they say the third one was supposed to be? They were
Always
supposed to have already been born.
somebody from the Middle East. It's the only thing I can remember off the top of my head was that it was supposed to be someone from the Middle East, and yes, they should have been born by now.
Yeah.
And everything. So.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the first things that Nostradamus predicted was the death of the king. In a jousting.
Yeah.
Yep. And, he was making some of these predictions back in a time when you really didn't want to say those kind of things out loud because they burned you at the stake.
Right. And that's the one thing I really wish that Nostradamus had not hadn't written it in secret or code or whatever. It's quatrains, the way that it has it written, if he truly did have all this information accurate and it's not modern day people, who are Nostradamus fans massaging what he wrote, that to me that would have been far more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because like I said, it was interesting, and it's like every other great work that came along many centuries ago. They have been doctored and interpreted. I use that word very loosely.
Right.
Because it's the same thing with with the Bible. Who decided what to leave out of it? And what should be in it and everything like that.
Yeah. To me, one of the funny things about the Bible is, through the years, you've always had people try to predict the date when Jesus was going to come back. That's in the 1800s. You had Charles Taze Russell and some other folks, and then you had 88 reasons in 88 why Jesus was going to come back in 88.
Yes.
Then was it what was the guy's name from New York or Jersey or somewhere up there? Camping. he predicted it most recently. They've all been wrong.
Right. Right, exactly. Well, and like I said, I think that there have been people throughout history that have tried to bring about things like the end of the world because of their erratic beliefs or things that they feel that they have predicted, or someone that they knew predicted. So, if it won't do it on its own, then I'll just go ahead and, go in.
Yeah. I will admit, I know there's some really frightening passages in the Bible that are future. They haven't come to pass yet. Wow, it's terrifying.
I remember my aunt, my mom's youngest sister is probably about 10 years older than me. And she was babysitting us one night, and Mom told her, don't forget to tell them a story. So she decides to read us a Bible verse, which would have been fine and well, but you do not read a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old from Revelations. And, of course, the next thing I remember is falling out of the top of the bunk bed onto the floor because devils were coming after me.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably for somebody that has a little bit older than that.
Right. Yeah. Because like I said, I was 5 and he was 2. My baby brother hadn't been born yet, but yeah, because that's what I remember my mom asking her next morning, what did you read to them last night? She goes, I read them the Bible. Well, what did you read them? And I'm like, horses, Mama, horses.
Yeah.
And, she didn't just read one little, section. She read.
Yeah. And that's it. It's you want scary reading, Revelation 18. That's frightening reading.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are a lot of people out there who are under the impression that could be America. And if you read that, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's one of those things, like I said, sometimes I sit back and I read some of these things and I'm wondering, I could see that happening. With very little provocation and very little imagination.
Yeah, I mean, all the technology and weapons of destruction, they exist right now. Russia has that torpedo that can produce a 1,600-foot high tsunami.
What? Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, actually.
Right.
Yeah. What's that going to do for a radiated water on a coastal city?
Yeah.
Well, I actually was having a very good conversation with a 21-year-old last night. And he said, that's the thing that scares him. He said, he feels like if there's a third world war, in the next 20 years, he said, I feel like it's going to be electronic.
For
computers
sure.
and everything. And I'm like, you're not wrong. But him talking about it, I mean, he's done the research, and everything. So he was very well spoken and everything. So,
when I worked in cybercrime, that's the thing that you would be surprised is we're already under cyber attack. If you knew, they say only 15, and then, this was when I was working in it, which was 2020, that only like 15% of cyber crimes that we experience are reported. That's why it's a big push for Homeland and for the FBI to get those reports in, even if they can't actually convict the people doing the crimes, is to trace it back. Right. Because a lot of times these trace back to China, to Russia, to a number of other countries where they have no jurisdiction, but it is a government paid operation of war.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Steve, I'm going to say this one more fact is in Mississippi in 2019, it was over $7 million that was reported lost in cybercrime related incidents. That was reported. And this is in Mississippi, where we don't have the cash flow that states like Ohio or California or Texas has. So imagine that. And then imagine that only 15% of it is reported because people are too embarrassed or they don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's with North Korea, they almost pulled off a huge one. I'm not sure if it's last year or the year before. May have been 2020 when they almost got away with billions. North Korea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that I don't know if y'all remember this, but in the late, I want to say probably 2017 to 2020, there was a security hack on one of the credit monitoring companies. And it was found out that it was China that paid for that.
Wow.
Oh, look, for like 5 years, I didn't have to pay to have my credit watched because, Home Depot got hit. And, I had bought something there, so they paid for a year. And then, Lowe's got hit. So, I mean, like I said, for about 5 years, I had coverage from all over the place.
Well, the IRS got hit,
Yeah. So it's crazy.
I mean, when you start talking to people about cybercrime and they start realizing, hey, that happened to me.
Yeah. Was it last year when the pipeline in somewhere in the eastern part of the country, southeast, was shut down for how many days?
Was it last year or the year before?
Was it?
I think it was. Well, everything's kind of blurry now, but I think it was 2021.
Was that when that was? Okay.
I think so.
And that was done. It was a cyber crime. They had to pay the people who were holding up the pipeline. To release it.
One of my friends,
that's crazy.
That's what he does. Is he works with the FBI, and he was working at a casino locally, an Indian casino, and this was an election year at the casino here, and there was a big cyber crime at the casino. And he said, like, his first day on the job that, like, all these agents came in and were confiscating computers. And it turned out that the guy at the time that was in charge of the nation, this is the nation of the reservation, he was involved with some Russian mobsters. And so they had a vested interest in seeing him reelected. Well, he didn't get reelected, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I was like, wow, the Russian mafia would go that far into other states, because you don't think about the Russians being in Mississippi.
Right. The Russians are everywhere.
Yep.
I mean,
sorry. I hear what you're saying, but I'm hearing Tony Soprano saying to his sister Janice, "You don't F with the Russians, Janice."
Yeah. and like I said, that's and I mean, I know there are a lot of people that like cover the camera on their computer and all that good stuff, but well, I'm looking at my green light right now. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I figure they've got the access if they want it.
Well, yeah, your phone and everything.
And if you got a smart TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you remember do y'all remember when the Ring door things got hacked?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and if someone wants to get into your stuff, they can get into your stuff.
Oh yeah.
Unless you are totally locked down with your, stuff encrypted. Even then, I mean, that comes back to the whole, if someone's protecting something this heavy, you got to wonder what they're hiding, and that just makes those people want in more.
Right.
Which I know that y'all know that I dated a guy from South Africa for a while. He was a hacker, and that was when I got over being hacked. Is when we broke up, I knew if he wanted in, he could get in. And that was when I got over being hacked. Is when we broke up, I knew.
Deja vu.
I recognize that voice.
My bad. But no, they a girl I used to work with, she was real big on, I don't do banking online. I don't do this. I don't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you pay your bills? Because how do you pay your bills if you don't do anything online? I use one credit card. I pay only that one. Rah, rah. I'm like, so you're out there. If you're paying something, even if it's only one, you're in databases all over the place.
Yeah.
Because, we buy databases for direct mail every day.
Yeah, because don't the states sell your information to different companies and stuff?
Probably.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would not doubt it at all. So like I said, your information's out there. It's just a matter of being smart,
Mhm.
and everything. And like I said, that's one of the things that's part of my job responsibility is, telling people, no, 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 read the email address. We are this company, not janesayshi.com. It's the obvious ones you just want to backhand people over because you're like, dude, serious, it's right there. We had someone that was fixing to go and buy $500 in iTunes gift cards and send the PIN numbers to the owner of the company. And I'm like, has she ever asked you to do anything like that, especially by email? Well, no. I should have just shut my mouth and let you do it. I just should have let you do it.
Funny.
It comes down to any look. It doesn't matter what jail you're in. They don't want a Walmart gift card.
Yeah.
No. No.
A Walmart gift card for $250 isn't going to get your child or whoever out of prison in Mexico.
No.
Yeah. Or the Nigerian prince need.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here.
Get his money.
I'm going to jump in here for 1 second. I have a story about the Nigerian prince. I grew up in a neighborhood. It was me and one other girl and like 15 boys. So we were good friends growing up. And I asked my mom, it's been about a year and a half ago. I'm like, how's she doing? She goes, oh, she's engaged. I'm like, really? She said, yeah, to a Nigerian prince. And I just died laughing because my mother, God love her, is naive when it comes to electronics and stuff like that. But she's like, what are you talking? What's wrong with you? I'm like, Mom, it is an ongoing joke amongst everybody under the sun about the Nigerian prince. I'm like, how much money did she send him? She goes, none, but she's been over there to see him 2 or 3 times now. And I'm like, wait, what? She goes, yeah, she's actually been over there and met him. I'm like, well, I'll be damned. There is a Nigerian prince somewhere in the world.
I was gonna say, I hope it's real. I've been texting one.
I used to work with a guy that was actually from Nigeria, and their idea of prince and ours is totally different. He was telling me that a man can have up to 4 wives if he can afford her. His father was a prince of their village. So their concept of prince is totally different than what mine was because I was a teenager at the time. But so he had 24 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I'm like, how the hell do you keep up with all of them? It's fine. I've known him all my life, and he was the oldest. So, he got to come to America to go to college and everything. Yeah. So there is one Nigerian prince. Now, whether he's a bona fide prince or just that's what the village calls him.
Yeah, well even if he is a prince and he has 24 siblings, that's probably not going to amount to much.
No, not much at all. Not much at all. All right, Cecil, what's your favorite prediction?
The Siegfried and Roy attack from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that because that's the one I got pulled up. I don't know. There's a few, like the ones that blow my mind are the ones that are like predictive programming, basically, in TV and stuff, like The Simpsons and all this good stuff. Like what was it called, Man on the Moon, which predicted us going to the moon back in 1901, except as a much different experience. Things like that. And one of the reasons I have trouble with people being able to see so far into the future is because I feel like people right now have a hard time predicting what actually happened in the past. So it'll be harder to predict what's happening in the future, like a long way down the road. I get like intuition and feeling like something's wrong. I've had those feelings too, that something's wrong. I feel like that's just a connection amongst people, like as one collective unit somewhere. Like back in the day, we probably all had that. So
Yeah. Well, Cecil, the future could be more certain than the past.
that's true. That's exactly true. Because, if you predict the future, there's a chance that, if you're in a role to where you can sway things, it's kind of like a butterfly effect. If you bring it up, it could happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, what's your favorite?
My favorite prophecy.
Or the most, or which you would consider really interesting?
One that'd be really interesting. I don't know. Y'all know that I the Bible, so I mean, the prophecies in the Bible, all those are fascinating to me. I mean, some of the other stuff with World War III, Nostradamus predicted that, and I think that's really interesting because it looks like things are shaping up now to for that to potentially happen.
Mm-hmm.
With China and Russia, you have the BRICS nations that are trying to form their own currency and get away from the U.S. dollar. Yeah. If that takes place, what's going to be the result of that? If a country owes a lot of money, somebody's going to come want to collect.
Yeah.
And that would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to me that we owe so much money, but we've gave everybody so much money. Like they don't really take off our debt. They're like, hey, thank you for the free money. You still owe us $1 trillion.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's a little bit messed up. Hadley?
I don't know. I'm going to say, and I don't have anyone I can cite, but my big thing that I'm looking at is earth changes.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't followed that like I should have, but that was something when we were looking at the end of the Mayan calendar, my big thing was always it's going to be earth changes.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen so many. I go back to that movie, was it Day After Tomorrow, where, you can't live beyond like the Mason-Dixon line and not freeze to death. I think that's where we're going.
Yeah. Was it that volcano that erupted last year? How much water did that thing put into the atmosphere?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I did hear, I don't know, David Devine. Have y'all anyone familiar with him?
I've heard of him, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, he's kind of seemed to think that, we could have may not have a summer.
Yeah.
Because of all that water from that volcano that was put into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope he's wrong on that. I would, I don't know. I like squash.
Yeah, that's going to destroy food.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, look at bee collapse and stuff. If the bees go away, we're screwed. I mean, we are completely screwed because, that affects food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Is the what kind of shape is the Mississippi River in right now? Has the level come up any?
No, I don't think so.
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, speaking of low rivers, did you see that they found Osiris's tomb this week?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I did.
I did not see that.
Mm-hmm.
They're already trying to cover it up.
Thing though, or is that just another TikTok?
No, the first 2 days it was set in stone that we found it, and now they're starting to be like, no, they didn't find it. So I'm sure they found something. Yeah, so I'm sure they found something that's pretty impressive if they're already starting to cover it up. But no, that's not what it was. After saying that's what it was for the first 2 or 3 days, but they found it because the Nile's down so low.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everything's low. I mean,
California's flooding right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We have a remote worker that lives out there, and they had an earthquake. So I sent her a message, hey, just checking on you. Happy New Year. And she goes, do you know something I don't? And I'm like, well, you had an earthquake out there. She goes, oh, I thought maybe you were talking about all the kayaking down the streets. We're used to earthquakes. And I'm like, okay. I never would have crossed my mind not to be concerned about an earthquake.
Floods during the winter and then huge fires during the summer is what's going to happen.
Yep. And then it's so dry from all of the fires that then they get mudslides.
Yeah.
When they finally do get all the rain. Yep.
Yeah, that burns off everything whenever they with that. So it's I don't know. The whole all of California seems to be in a mess. Who knows? Maybe the new California will emerge from it. I don't know.
Maybe.
I know there are people trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I always think of what's Escape from LA.
Yeah.
So I've always said it would end up an island.
They're doing a good job getting that transatlantic, that trans-Pacific railway set up in that area, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm reading here is that the Mississippi River at Baton Rouge was last observed at 14.09 feet, and that was on the 6th.
I've been in swimming pools deeper than that.
And I know, and that flood stage is 35 feet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But it is projected to be up to 22.1 feet by the 18th.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
I know
Yep.
last summer they had to dredge it so that barges could get through it. You know, they had to go in and dredge sand out because it had gotten so low.
I just can't imagine how bad that smells.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Don't want to live at Vicksburg right now.
Yeah. I knew last year that the farmers, they just had their crops piled up on the banks of the Mississippi River because it was too low to get a fully loaded barge up and down it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
and last year our hurricane season was anticipated to, it was projected to be the worst yet. And we did not have a hurricane until what, September?
Yeah.
And this is
thought
in the
hurricane
Gulf. I
season
think that the Atlantic might have seen some tropical storms more than we did.
Right.
But it was a really weird storm season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we had the winter apocalypse 2022. And then, it's been 80 degrees here this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went driving around in the apocalypse.
I stay inside. I've had to be outside when it was -6. I had to be outside because they shut our electricity off at that time for 6 hours that night because they decided to go ahead and give us rolling blackouts. So needless to say,
to me, that right there is incredibly scary.
Yeah.
Is that the government can do that?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, look at Texas a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was insane. That many people were in that condition because of a power grid. So, what happens when somebody does target our power grid?
Well, Texas is on its own power grid, so it's a lot easier to
do. But they had to get permission. The federal government wouldn't give them permission to turn it up to cover what they knew they were going to need during that negative temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And here recently, there have been some people in, I think, Washington State that have shot some transformers and things like that and knocked out the power in places. So who knows? I mean, it seems like we're vulnerable in that aspect.
Yeah. Yep. All right. My favorite prediction. It's not my favorite. It's just from one of my favorite books, Fahrenheit 451. And I had totally forgotten about this until I was researching that. This was written in 1953. And he described, quote, "And in her ears, the little seashells, the thimble radios tamped tight, and an electronic ocean of sound of music and talk coming in on the shore of her unsleeping mind." That are earbuds.
Wow.
Yeah. And there are several books that, talk about things that were not in existence at the time. But like I said, that was one of my go-to books when I was a teenager. I loved that book. And like I said, when I was researching this, I came back across it and I'm like, I do vaguely remember that,
Oh, Elon Musk has made some scary predictions about AI.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking some scary stuff, man. It's, he's super smart and he's sitting there telling y'all that there's going to be robots that we're not going to know are robots.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that thing in I guess Japan where they've made a mouth that can talk and sing? they've replicated the human voice.
Yeah, that you can't tell is robotic.
Well, you can tell,
Mhm.
and if you look at this thing, it doesn't look like it's made for a robot's mouth, but they're saying it is. But they're saying it is.
But they got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It
and
looks
I always think about iRobot. When the robots
Oh,
get
yeah.
smart enough that they don't need us.
I
They
think
Right.
about Terminator.
Well, yeah, that's what Yuval Noah Harari has said. The future doesn't need humans.
Mhm.
no.
That's
Yep.
that's the WEF's right hand man, so to speak.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
World Economic Forum. It's Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago, I saw Elon on something where he was talking about within 3 years that we would have technology that it would get us, mankind, away from speaking.
Really?
That well, I mean, look how many people are using text rather than talking on the telephone now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and that it would be something that like basically you plugged into it, so to speak, and it would take whatever you're thinking and put it into what I guess someone else's mind or their computer or whatever, and that's what we're moving towards. And I'm more. The more I hear about that, the more I want to go off grid somewhere.
Well, it's fun what AI can already do. Like they've got AI out here that can write jokes and tell the jokes. They got ones that can write screenplays and predict the future. And
I have a beta of a text or of a writing AI.
Yeah.
Just decided let me play with it, and I put in a title and like 3 points, and it gave me a 500-word document in under a minute.
Yeah.
Was it worth reading?
It was worth reading. That's where I was going next.
And people are using those for like essays and stuff for college now.
Right. Yeah. So that's what are teachers gonna give kids to do? I mean, because you can't put it into like Grammarly and it search for it for for plagiarism, because it's unique every time you do it.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell y'all about Grammarly, because I use it to check my stuff when I'm writing.
Mhm.
And that stuff, it messes up more than it fixes.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's very scary what AI can do, and especially when you start looking at the artwork. Because I know we're all looking at the artwork now.
Mhm. Oh yeah, because
But there's
I'm
something
fascinated
about that
with
artwork that has a darkness to it that disturbs me.
it. Mhm.
I make my own.
Yeah. So it's all this technology. It's definitely a convenience for us, but at the same time, I'm still a little bit leery of it. I'm not. I know I'm not ready for a brain implant or a chip in my brain. I think about movies, like I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how that went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally what they're doing is literally driving us to what we've said many times before, idiocracy.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to have to do anything. You're just going to exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when y'all start using Mountain Dew to water your plants, I'm going to worry about you.
Interesting fact, I know people that grow illegal plants that actually spray Mountain Dew on it to make it look cooler.
Oh God.
Gives it crystals.
Oh my gosh. Well, and that's what I know we talked about it a little bit on our last episode. Things that future things like that, and the fact that like I hoard seeds now and stuff like that, because like I said, as people are no longer necessary, then food's not going to be as prevalent. Groceries right now are stupid. A dozen eggs for $8 when you can get Eggland's Best for the same price as the store brand.
Yeah.
That's bad. So, I mean, call me crazy, but I just would prefer not to take a chance of not having stuff available when I need it.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm. So, I kept the plastics corporation the last few months of the year in business by collecting airtight containers to put grains and stuff like that in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get Cecil down here because he's the huntsman.
Yeah.
And he'll provide the meat.
I'll just steal it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary.
Linda is saying that the organic food at Whole Foods is cheaper than at other stores, and I'll say I've noticed that with meat. Meat at Fresh Market is cheaper than it is at Kroger.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Really?
Not
It's a
much,
supply
but I
issue.
mean, just it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that you can get anything organic for not twice as much as the regular is unusual.
Eggs is blowing my mind. Like
Yeah.
down here it's like $5.50 for eggs.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago it was like 99 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't there been some kind of a bunch of eggs have had to be destroyed because of some kind of disease or something? I think, isn't it?
I'm sure they made something up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that one bit.
Don't put that right over your face.
I loved watching them just destroy random crops last year. That was a fun pastime of mine.
Mm. Oh yeah, I mean, because I heard stories about, it was rotting in the fields and everything. You take that stuff to a city where people don't have anything. Oh, they could have,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been well used.
Well, you would look at a property line of somebody's farm that been bought out by some of these people that we call they, and everything's brown and dead, and then on the about 12 inches away, everything's green and lush. It was kind of strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, that's because recently I was reading an article about Monsanto going over to Africa. And, I mean, in a land where people are already struggling to grow crops and everything, now they can only buy modified seed, and they can't save their seed, that they've been doing, for generations.
Yep.
America is one of the few countries that has not banned Monsanto.
One of my neighbors has a theory, and I'm kind of starting to believe it, that whenever you grow things from now on, you know how they always reproduce their own seeds,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to start seeing fewer and fewer seeds that you can actually get from the things that would typically reproduce their seed.
Right. Yeah, they've been doing that with oranges for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the heirloom seeds are getting a little harder to find.
Yeah. And like I said, I've got a couple of places I can still get them from. But when one of them's called Rare Seeds, that tells you something. So
It's going to be like buying crack. You're going to have to buy seeds by the gram.
There you go. They've definitely gone up because used to you could get a pack of seeds for a couple dollars. Now you're lucky if you can get 10 seeds for $5 if they're heirloom.
Yeah, last year I think I spent $70 or $80 on seeds.
Hey, I just spent $37 on some seeds. So, just because they're in stock right now, and they're heirlooms, so I want to get them while they've got them.
Yeah, I mean, if people eat beans, you can go to the big box stores and you can buy some really big bags of beans.
Yep.
You can get 50 pounds of beans right now, fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to stock up on some, really.
I have a few.
Yeah.
A few, just a few. All right, guys. Well, we've gone over. So, no, so strange. But thanks so much for joining us tonight. I think next week we are talking about the RH blood factor, and we should have a special guest. But I can't verify that. Miss Hadley will be too.
I'll have to find out.
Okay, cool. But other than that, any last words?
We're in the Folk. We'll have a new episode. We was going to record it tomorrow, but I think the technical issues I have may have delayed that till next week. I'm still sitting here trying to figure it out.
Oh yeah, you'll
Yeah.
get off and you'll figure it out. It'll be something simple and quick.
No, I think it's FUCT.
All right, Miss Hadley, you've got a book fixing to come out, don't you?
Maybe, maybe not. It's on hold right now while I take care of some business. But
Okay.
other than that, Weird Realities has got a lot of stuff coming up for 2023. Bethany Stutzman, a great horror writer, is going to be doing a campfire tale show with one of her friends. I'm not sure what the name is yet. I think we were talking about blondes and books and campfire tales.
One of them I said sounded horrible after I repeated it to myself.
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah, there's a big debate tonight over what to call it, or today. But she's great. Y'all love her. She'll be. I don't know if I think they're going to go live on Wednesday with it, so it'll be Bethany and Crystal. So they're a lot of fun. I think that everybody will love their show, and we've got a lot of new stuff coming up too. So just be on the lookout. And Morgana and I are working on the 2024 get together. So if you're interested, be sure to keep in touch with us because we will be letting y'all know as we know. But it looks like it's going to be taking place in Central Mississippi, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. We got to fly Cecil down.
Take the train.
That's right.
Take the train. You can drink.
I can drink and drive down there too, right?
Well, we'd rather you let Mandy drive if you're going to do that.
I might be able to rent like a Tesla or something.
You know, I always said I was going to get one just so I could make my own car sounds one time.
Also, Rich Restucci is going to be doing some programs for us. One of them is called 10 Minutes of Dick, which he's going to be reading some great some of his favorite authors from their books that they have released. And then he's also going to do that prepper show, which I'm really excited about. I'm eager to see what he's going to get into with that. So y'all be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, the prepper show. I'm looking forward to what he's going to have on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that one's going to be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, well, guys, let's call it. And we hope to see you back next week. And until next time, stay weird.
Night, dudes.
Good night, everyone.